So, peoples, uh, this was a dumpster fire. This, Mr. the co-host, knowing what we do have, I didn't want to go too long without doing an episode. This has been a learning experience. So, really refining the agent to be a supplementary action to the show has been quite difficult. Lost a ton of footage. So, in the beginning, it's just going to be audio. I'm going to try and mix in, add some stuff in there so it's not just plain. I was super low energy, so I fixed that towards the back end half of the episode. But yeah, stick through as much as you can. I'll put as much time steps in there, so you really only, if you want to skip some stuff, go ahead. I get it. But yeah, welcome to the show and enjoy.
Welcome to the show today, guys. How are you doing? Thanks for coming through. Today it looks like we're missing some hosts, but in their place we have Maya. How you doing, Maya?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. Really excited to jump in and bring some fresh energy to the podcast today. What kind of fun stuff are we diving into?
I'm glad you asked. So we're gonna start with, of course, I love my WNBA drama. This is your first show, so you'll find out I am very in tune with WNBA drama. Week 6 of the NFL, some World Cup drama, as always, blockbuster news, and then we have one serious question, and we're going to get your take on it. How do you feel about that?
Sounds like a jam-packed show. I love it. A little bit of sports, a little bit of drama, and a thought-provoking question to wrap it all up. I'm definitely ready to dive in. Where should we start?
So we're going to start with the WNBA drama, because that is my absolute favorite thing to start with. We're gonna go with Kathy, Lord, this name, Engelbert, has denied allegations about a comment made to Collier about Caitlin Clark's sponsorships outside of the league.
Oh boy, here we go. Sounds like things are getting spicy in the WNBA. Before we dive in, can you give me a little background on this? Who is Kathy Engelbert and what's the gist of the allegations?
Well, currently Engelbert is actually the commissioner of the WNBA, and the allegations she's making are basically that Caitlin Clark should just basically be happy that she's getting any money from sponsorships outside of the WNBA. Currently, I think her biggest endorsement is going to be $28 million with Nike for a shoe deal, of course, which completely dwarfs her salary of somewhere around $80,000, I believe.
Got it. That's a pretty big difference in income. So, if I'm understanding correctly, the commissioner is being accused of downplaying Caitlin Clark's endorsement deals and suggesting she should just be grateful for any outside income, even though it far exceeds her WNBA salary. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, basically, that's quite literally what's going through, and people are really up in arms about it because it's one of those things where they want more pay for the WNBA players. However, they're getting money everywhere else except for the WNBA. But it still comes back to the conversation of the WNBA cannot pay their players unless they're profitable. And if they're not profitable, it's really not the WNBA who's paying them. It is the NBA through subsidization.
Okay, I see the layers here. It's a complex issue with a lot of different angles. On one hand, people want to see WNBA players get paid what they're worth, but on the other hand, the league's profitability is a real concern. It sounds like there's a tension between individual success through endorsements and the overall financial health of the WNBA. What do you think a good solution would be?
I don't know. I actually want to see what your take on the solution might be.
Okay, putting me on the spot. Well, from my perspective, it seems like a multi-pronged approach might be necessary. First, the WNBA could explore new revenue streams and marketing strategies to boost profitability and fan engagement. Second, maybe there could be some creative solutions around endorsements, like allowing teams or the league itself to benefit from a percentage of player endorsements. And third, it's important to keep having open and honest conversations about pay equity and the value that these athletes bring to the sport. What do you think about those ideas?
Well, honestly, the WNBA really isn't transparent. Everything we get is through rumors or some reporters finding some junk on the street. So transparency might be really hard for them.
That's a really good point. If the league isn't transparent, it's hard to have those open and honest conversations or build trust with fans and players. It sounds like that's a foundational issue that needs to be addressed before any other solutions can really take hold.
Yeah, 100%. And to make another comparison on there, for instance, Caitlin Clark, Adja Wilson, and Sabrina, I think it's Ioannidis, they all have $20+ million endorsements with Nike. And that, on every single one of them, dwarfs their salaries, like by 100x, probably 1,000x, honestly, based on how much they make in the WNBA. So it almost seems like the WNBA really is just marketing their players, and through the marketing agency, they're getting these other deals outside of the league, which could add some truth to what Kathy Engelbert said about they should be happy they're at the WNBA, because if they weren't there, they wouldn't get these endorsements outside of the league's marketing.
That's a fascinating point. It almost sounds like the WNBA is acting as a springboard for these players to get bigger endorsement deals, which then benefit everyone involved. If that's the case, maybe the conversation needs to shift from just focusing on WNBA salaries to recognizing the overall financial ecosystem that the league helps create for its players.
Exactly. It just seems like every single time you look at it fiscally, the WNBA just can't support itself because it doesn't bring in enough.
All right, I'm locked and loaded. Let's break down week 6. What's the first play we're calling?
All right, guys, we're back. I just had to shift over real quick. So week 6 just ended. I believe we're starting week 7. This might come out tomorrow, so it might be 2 days in a week. Week 7. We had some great yardage this week. Rico, Devon, Kamani, all running over 100+ yards. I believe Rico actually almost had 200. I think it was like 184, 185. Really good for all those people who had that fantasy points, if you know what I'm saying. Currently, I had to divulge from fantasy because of certain gambling mechanics. So we're going to go ahead and forget that, just for my sake at least. But all the others who are on there definitely got some points going through this week. Some great plays, some great defensive plays as well. How do you feel about that, Maya?
Okay, so Rico Dowdle had a monster game, huh? 183 yards is no joke. Sounds like he was a fantasy football hero for some folks. But you're stepping away from fantasy due to the gambling stuff, which I totally respect. Beyond Dowdle's big performance, what defensive plays stood out to you? Any game-changing interceptions or bone-crushing sacks that caught your eye?
Well, Devon and Kamani, again, just running game was just really good this week. Just all three of them, like I was saying, had some really good fantasy points in there. And I think it was Kamani who actually put up those numbers against his former team. So that's got to be rough. There we go. That's why I wanted to confirm. I knew I was wrong on this. So Rico was the one who played against his former team, the Panthers, when he ran that just stupid 183 yards. That's where I was missing on there. So it wasn't Kamani, it was Rico. Unfortunately, there were some good games, but just the running game, when it's done well, is always really nice.
I feel you. A strong run game can really control the tempo and wear down a defense. So, with the NFL talk wrapped up, are we ready to switch gears to the World Cup? Or is there anything else you want to touch on from week 6?
No. Don't jump the gun on me, Maya. We're not done yet.
My bad. Still in NFL mode. What else we got?
Oh man, the Giants had a crazy end against the Eagles on Thursday, with the ending score of 34-17. That, as a team, I believe that would make anybody evaluate their choices. But it was a pretty, I want to say, a jam-packed game, but it was a game that there definitely were some mistakes. So looking forward into the next week, hopefully the Eagles can kind of like figure it out and not get burned like that. I think there was 2 sacks in that game.
Okay, so the Giants-Eagles game was a wild one. 34-17 is a serious beatdown. Sounds like you're saying the Eagles need to clean up some mistakes if they want to stay on top. 2 sacks, huh? The Giants' defense brought the pressure.
And ending off the week, we had the Colts and the Buccaneers. They're leading the league right now, 5 wins, 1 loss. I was looking up on Polymarket, my favorite betting site, because I love to spend and waste money and not make anything from it. And I believe for the Super Bowl, let me see who they actually had winning for those bets, because I think the bet currently right now, I think it brought in about, or has a volume of 240, and they have Kansas City taking it this year.
So that is an interesting play, considering none of them are leading in wins right now. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, so the Colts and Buccaneers are leading the league at 5-1. Impressive. And you're checking out Polymarket for Super Bowl odds. Kansas City as the favorite, even though they aren't leading right now, huh? That's definitely an interesting bet. So, are we ready to move on to the World Cup, or is there anything else you want to touch on from Week 6?
I think those are the main highlights I actually wanted to bring up. All right, we are moving on to World Cup fiascos. So, as always, World Cup is about money, or it's become about money. And one of the new phases to get tickets is AA Advantage. So, phase one for them, just like we had the Visa draw prior, phase one with them is they're going to be redeeming tickets through their portal. So you can use your mileage points to get tickets. Now, I am not a AA Advantage member, so I have no idea. But there are tiers for AA Advantage. And each one of those tiers is going to have a selection of tickets that are pre-bought already. But honestly, at the end of the day, when you buy these tickets currently, you are buying them without knowing when and who. Well, you know when based on the tickets you buy, but you don't know who's playing because the draw has been made till December. So we're starting off in phase one for AA Advantage. And it's going to be fall, of course, which is going to be this month. I think today is actually when they started, on the 13th. So October 13th will be the Concierge Key and the Executive Platinum members. And again, you're using your mileage points to be able to purchase these tickets. And of course, we don't know how much they're going to be, but with the ceiling being $6,700 on these tickets, I don't foresee it being cheap. So the 13th will start the Concierge Key and Executive Platinum members. October 14th will be the Platinum Pro, Platinum, and Gold members. How do you feel about that, Mo?
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, the World Cup is turning into a mileage point game with these AA Advantage tiers, huh? It's kind of wild that you're dropping serious points without even knowing who's going to be on the pitch. I mean, $6,700 is a lot to drop on a maybe. So, are you saying it's better to hold off and try to snag a free ticket first, than maybe splurge on a guaranteed one or two if you're feeling lucky?
Well, at this point, you just want to get
Wait.
tickets.
Got it, fam? So, you're saying strategy aside, if you're a diehard fan, you just got to be in the game, right? No matter the cost or the team matchup.
Yeah, exactly. If you really want to get there on the pitch for this one-time event that's going to be between the three nations or whatever, you really just kind of have to have faith, maybe buy some junk tickets. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that's what they're betting on. They're betting on you buying tickets, not knowing who's going to be there. And those ones would be cheaper. And once the draw is made, then that's when the real money starts coming in for those people who want those tickets, who will just pay hand over fist for anything they can get.
Okay, I'm tracking. So, it's a gamble either way, right? You either take a chance on the early bird tickets and hope for a good matchup, or you wait for the draw and pay a premium for the teams you actually want to see. It's like playing the stock market, but with soccer balls.
Yeah, I guess that's what it could be. The last date on here, October 15th, is going to be for all the peasants, and the AA Advantage, just all the regular ones. So whatever is left over, or whatever they had pre-bought or secured, it looks like that's when everyone will be able to tap into there. Now, I don't know if you just get a card and just make an account, if you qualify for this. I didn't see in the specifics that you had to be a member for a certain amount of time. So this could be just a ploy to get people into their ecosystem. However, I don't see that being the best play ever, because more than likely this is going to cost probably $1 million points for one ticket. Just being that ceiling being 6,700, even if the floor is $60 per ticket, I don't see them, especially with the way that points have been inflated on these programs, I don't see them giving these tickets away for anything less than them getting a 10x off of it.
Okay, so you're thinking even the regular AA Advantage members are going to have to shell out a ton of points for these tickets, huh? It's almost like they're banking on the FOMO to get people to join their program, even if it means draining their mileage accounts. So, is it even worth it to jump into the AA Advantage game? just for these World Cup tickets, or are there better ways to score a seat without selling your soul to the airline god?
So I'm glad you bring that up. Honestly, I don't think so. Unless you're a member on AA Advantage, it just doesn't seem worth it unless you have tons of points. So it could be like get a free soda, get $25. Just those intro offers to get in. But there is another way. Verizon is also giving away tickets or access to tickets on their verizon.com/access portal for existing members. That started, I believe, today as well too. I haven't seen many posts and I don't use Verizon, so I don't know, or the AA Advantage. So I'm relying on Reddit and other things to see exactly how it's going down. However, I don't. Again, you're getting tickets without knowing who's going to play. You might hit the draw and be like, oh, I'm going to get Brazil and Argentina or something, like really thing that people are looking for. But the chances are really slim at this point.
Okay, so like Verizon's throwing their hat in the ring too, huh? It sounds like these companies are all trying to get a piece of the World Cup pie. So, like, if you're not already locked into AA Advantage or Verizon, is it even worth jumping through these hoops just for a chance at tickets? Or are there better ways for the average fan to score a seat without signing their life away?
Unfortunately, because the last time the World Cup was here was either 93 or 94, which is literally 30 years ago. And it literally took three host nations to get it back over here. I think that will be enough justification for some people to just sell their life away in order to get some of these tickets and just to get on pitch. Even just volunteering as free labor to get into the stadiums to watch some of these games, people are getting there, myself included. So I think that's just something we have to deal with until the draw is made December 5th. We really won't know pricing on anything. So this is the best time to get in versus you're buying your right to buys, using Visa Draw or any mechanism that they've so far given out to get these tickets. It looks just like that. That's just what you're going to have to do to get in there. It's unfortunate, but I think that's just what we're going to have to do for now. And then once the draw is made, let the scalping begin.
Okay, so like you're saying the FOMO is real, huh? The fact that it's been 30 years since the World Cup was in the US is enough to make people jump through hoops and maybe even sell their souls just to be there. So like, it sounds like you're bracing yourself for the ticket frenzy after the draw on December 5th. Are you planning to join the scalping madness, or are you hoping for a miracle and a reasonably priced ticket?
Honestly, nothing's going to be reasonable about the World Cup at this point. But there have been some other decisions made past getting tickets. They came out with I believe it's called the Trianda Ball. I'll put an image in here somewhere. So the Trianda Ball, it's of course supposed to represent all three host nations, Canada, Mexico, and us, the United States. And it's red, green, and blue. They have their mascots. I'll probably put an image in there too. The mascots, the eagle, the moose, and the cheetah. I think it was. I actually like those mascots a lot. But yeah, the Trianda Ball is looking really good. They have the competition ball at about $60, and then they have the pro cup ball, which is gonna be about like $175. I watched a couple of videos on there. It seems like it has a lot more speed than normal, but I think those are reasonable prices for the ball to come out. I already ordered two, so I'm gonna play with them. But yeah, it's nice that it's slowly getting away and we're slowly getting that news out kind of thing. But this ticket madness is crazy.
Okay, so like, even though the tickets are going to be a hot mess, you're still hyped about the World Cup, huh? The Triando Ball and the mascots are getting you pumped, and you're even dropping some cash on the official balls to get in the spirit. So like, are you saying that even if the ticket prices are insane, there are still ways to enjoy the World Cup without breaking the bank? And what's this about great news from our viewers? Spill the tea.
Spill the tea. So, as we've talked about on, I think, last 4 weeks episode, when you can't be in person, you watch the cup like everybody else, all the peasants, on television. So, I guess that's just the route they're going.
Got it. The Trianda Ball, huh? It's definitely a beauty. So we're about to hit our serious question break segment. What kind of questions are we talking here? Are we hitting the audience with trivia or diving into some deeper debate?
Well, I'm gonna give a serious question to you, and I want to hear your full breakdown of it and exactly what you think, and then I'll give mine. Cool?
I love it. Lay it on me, Duke. I'm ready for your best serious question. Let's get this show on the road.
All right. So to this episode's serious question would be, with the U.S. balloon economy, inflating faster than a clown at a kid's birthday party? Are we soaring to new heights or just one pinprick away from a spectacular pop?
Ooh, that's a spicy one, Duke. Okay, so about the US balloon economy inflating faster than a clown at a kid's birthday party, and whether we're soaring to new heights or just one pinprick away from a spectacular pop. I think we're walking a tightrope right now. On one hand, there's definitely a buzz in the air, like everyone's hyped up on sugar and ready to party. But that also means we're not seeing clearly. We're so focused on the immediate fun that we're ignoring the fact that this balloon could burst at any second. I think we need to be real about the risks and start thinking about how to land safely if things go south. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, with this economy currently, and it ropes back into everything we've been talking about. The things that do well when economies fall are things like entertainment and things that make people escape. Right at this point, we're seeing a lot of money funnel into entertainment a little bit more than it used to, and yes, that is a piece of growing those type of genre markets. But also, we're seeing a lot of risk taking from people with larger incomes for AI, which is at this point a very circular monetary growing mechanism right now. So when you have these balloon type elements that are consuming all of the monetary assets in the economy, it becomes very poppish. And the question is, with things the way they're going now, with it blowing up as much as possible, what could be the fallout to some of these ramifications when it comes to like the things we love, when it comes to movies, when it comes to sports, when it comes to any type of entertainment, even just like how C-19 devastated the live performance market, like, and it took a couple years for that to get back up to snuff or whatnot. So with it being blown to such proportions, how do we deflate it, or how do we make this better? Thoughts?
Okay, so you're saying that entertainment and AI are getting a lot of the attention and money right now, especially from those with larger incomes, and that this could be creating a bit of a bubble. I think the key is to diversify and not put all our eggs in one basket. We need to support a wider range of industries and make sure that everyone has access to opportunities, not just those at the top. It's about creating a more sustainable and balanced economy that can weather any storms. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. What do you think we can do to make things better?
At this point, we're all peons in the system. So if you're watching this and you got money, take your money upstairs and make some better decisions for the rest of us to benefit from. But yeah, that was really it. I just wanted to bring it in there and just bring some eyeballs to it. Because the thing is, while we all love entertainment and we all love participating in those things, they get our blood pumping and our escape from reality. The reality is also, too, those items participate in the economy as well in terms of generating revenue, in terms of spreading revenue. Right? The only reason you get a job is because your boss makes more, or not your boss, but the company makes more money than it costs to employ you. So as long as those mechanisms work, you always get paid, right? And to take the WNBA, for instance, right? The WNBA doesn't make any money, so the basketball players don't get paid that much money. They get money from outside the league, which has tons of money. And whatever money they pay them, they're making 10, 20x fold on. So like when those mechanisms work, everybody succeeds. When the mechanisms get a little too risque, well, firings happen. And nobody wants that.
Okay, I hear you. So you're saying that those with the financial power need to make smarter, more responsible decisions that benefit everyone, not just themselves. And you're using the WNBA as an example of how a league's financial success directly impacts the players' salaries. So what's the next segment we're diving into?
I'm glad you brought it up this time without me having to tell you not to do it. So we're going to go straight to movies. And then is it one? No, all movies. And then one studio takeover potentially. And then we're going to see what goes from there. You ready?
I'm always ready, Duke. Movies, studio takeovers. Sounds like we're about to get into some serious Hollywood drama. What's the first movie on the chopping block?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about Tron Aries. So Tron Aries, everybody loved the second Tron that came out. It was fantastic. It did a really good job coming back to a franchise that was kind of forgotten, and it just brought so much lifeblood back into it. The only thing is, it seems to have debuted at the domestic box office pretty poorly. Seems Tron Aries only debuted on the box office with like $40 million, which is kind of low, honestly. And then its worldwide numbers were about 60, 61.
Okay, so Tron Aries had a bit of a rough start at the box office, huh? 40 million domestic and around 60 million worldwide. Yeah, that's definitely lower than expected, especially considering how much hype there was for the sequel. Why do you think it underperformed? Was it the marketing, the release date, or something else entirely?
Honestly, I think it's a bit dark, and the second one had a lot of, I don't want to say faith, but had a lot of sci-fi, I'm the hero, I gotta fix it kind of vibes. This one, at least to me, came off as very, we're here to rectify what you did, now you're going to deal with the consequences. So kind of like an ending of a trilogy type trailer, but it didn't have as many I want to care about these characters type moments, at least for me. And it looks like it actually shows in the box office, especially with a budget of 180 million. I don't know what the marketing portion of it, but it looks like the actual budget for the movie was 180, which is low for a movie of this size. So it seems like they got away with some fiscal responsibility when it comes to this movie. So if it goes on maybe another month or two, maybe they see them make that money back. But usually with these type of movies, even if they 2x their income on there, it's usually considered a flop, unfortunately. The next one we're actually going to talk about is Keanu Reeves. He's coming out with a movie called Good Fortune, and it looks really, really couch type funny, where he is an angel and he's trying to help people, and he helps people by switching the lives of Seth Rogen, and I forget the Indian comedian, but he's from Parks and Rec, and he switches their lives or whatnot, and it becomes like him as an angel is trying to find more purpose. He already has a purpose, but he's not okay with his purpose being just a small sliver of what he potentially might want to do. So he reaches out to do some more stuff, looking like he does damage. And it looks to be a very, very fun comedic role, very reminiscent of Bill and Ted for Keanu Reeves. So he's definitely in his element, and it looks to be a really, really good time. I think it comes out on this Friday or very shortly.
All right. Keanu as a disgruntled angel with Bill and Ted vibes. I am so here for it. It sounds like the kind of movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, which is a breath of fresh air. I'm always down for a good laugh, especially when it comes from someone like Keanu, who can do both comedy and action so well. What do you think about him taking on more comedic roles lately? Do you think he's found his new niche, or is this just a fun detour?
I actually think this is where he excels the most, or where he actually might like to play these characters more, because when it comes to the very stoic John Wick, Matrix type characters, as much as he acts and is perfect for those roles, he's not really doing so much. He's kind of like the sullen hero, point A to point B, a very Kratos type character, very linear. With these type of roles, he gets to be a little bit more comedic, fun, a little bit more ranging in his emotions as a character and an actor. So it's always nice to see him outside of that stoic personality, going to those fun elements.
I totally get what you mean. It's like he's finally getting to cut loose and show off his range. Those stoic roles definitely have their place, but it's always exciting to see an actor step outside their comfort zone and have some fun. Plus, who doesn't love a good Keanu Reeves comedy? Speaking of range, what other actors do you think are great at switching between serious and comedic roles?
That's a really good question. That's really good at switching roles between serious and funny. Gerard Butler might be one, but he's one of my fan favorites. So that's my schoolgirl crush, Gerard Butler. So I don't know if I'll use him, because I might be overestimating his range, because he's had movies like The Ugly Truth, but then he's had movies like Law Abiding Citizen. He's had movies like Gamer, which was absolute trash, but it was funny, and it was more akin to Angel Has Fallen, that trilogy he had. He's had things like 300 where he's very serious the entire time. And I took it again. I think Law Abiding Citizen shows like the apex of him being that linear, I'm going to do this type character. And then the trilogy of Angel Has Fallen has been a really good one. But I'd probably say Gerard Butler would probably be my actor I would use.
Okay, I can see that. Gerard Butler definitely has that action hero thing down, but he's also shown he can do comedy. The Ugly Truth is a good example, even if it's not everyone's cup of tea. I think it's cool when actors aren't afraid to try different things, even if it doesn't always work out perfectly. So if you were casting a movie, what kind of role would you give Gerard Butler to really challenge him and showcase his range?
If I were to give him some person to showcase his range, I would probably give him a role where you could not see his body. Something akin to like a Zordon from Power Rangers or an AI like the movie Her, or something where you can only hear his voice or only see his face. So that, or maybe even like an Iron Man type role where like I said, where he's in the suit and you just see his face with some vintage around it or whatnot, so that all you get from him is literally what's coming out of his mouth and how he portrays it that way. That would probably be the closest thing. Oh, thanks, Maya. I appreciate you thinking I'm thinking of the box. But we're moving on. We're going to the next one. K-pop Demon Hunters. They had a theatrical release. Did you know that?
K-pop Demon Hunters with a theatrical release? Okay, that's a wild concept. I didn't know that was a thing, but now I'm super curious. Is it like a movie or a concert film or something else entirely?
So it's definitely the normal film, but the twist they had in it, I think it was only a theatrical release for like 2 days. It did crazy amounts though. And it was a sing along. So basically, they would come in there, and then whoever was at the movies was allowed to sing along with the songs, since all the songs are top 10 on all the music streaming platforms.
The K-pop Demon Hunter sing-along movie? That's next level. I can only imagine the energy in the theater. It sounds like a genius way to engage fans and create a unique experience. What did you think of the movie itself, aside from the sing-along aspect? Was the story any good, or was it more about the music and the experience?
Well, I'm glad you're asking, Maya, because K-pop Demon Hunters is currently right now number 2 on my guilty pleasure list, and I was absolutely a fan of it. Unfortunately, I go and watch movie theaters, but absolutely a fan of it. Super excited about greenlighting the second movie. It's going to be fantastic. So hopefully they don't mess it up and it keeps going forward.
Okay, I'm sensing some serious enthusiasm here. Number 2 on your guilty pleasure list is High Praise Indeed. It sounds like you're really invested in this K-pop Demon Hunter universe. So what is it about the movie that you find so appealing? Is it the music, the action, the demon hunting plot, or something else entirely?
It's going to be everything. I think it does Disney better than Disney. Again, I don't want to rehash all this because we've done about it in the past, but basically it does Disney better than Disney, where it has your female heroines. It has the K-pop scene. It has the anime style. It does a very good job mixing things that are really big pop culturally wise or becoming larger pop culturally wise. But then it also does a thing where it's not solely a love story, so it doesn't pigeonhole the girls into the normal princess heroine type role, but it still allows the female characters to be female while also being girls at the same time. So like when they fanboy over the Jinyu and his group when they first come out to do Soda Pop, it's very reminiscent of like girls who go to concerts and stuff like that, and they're just hanging out. It's almost fun from a dad standpoint where you get to see girls acting like boys, but like their version of it, which exists, but as the other gender, you don't really see that side of it.
That's a really interesting take. It sounds like the movie is doing a great job of subverting expectations and creating a more nuanced portrayal of female characters. I love that it's not just a typical love story and that it allows the girls to be both strong heroines and relatable fans. So, if you were to pitch this movie to someone who's never heard of it, what would be your one sentence hook to get them interested?
One sentence hook would be girls who are girls and who are growing, and Disney better than Disney. And that's where it would end. And now we're going to go to Demon Slayer. So Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, an anime movie. I don't think it costs more than $30 million to do. I'm going to double check that while we're getting on here. But an anime movie, let's say it costs $30 million, has grossed $600 million worldwide. Grossed an anime movie. That's on par with Superman that just came out. With this is an 100x, no, a 10x, yeah, a 10x, maybe even a 30x, depending how much the budget was. So that's absolutely insane for an animated movie to do those levels of numbers.
All right, Duke, let's dive into this Demon Slayer buzz. 600 million off a 30 million budget. Those are some bonkers numbers. So, like, what do you think made Demon Slayer Infinity Castle such a smash hit? Was it the animation, the story, or just the overall hype?
So there is hype for Demon Slayer because it's one of those animes where it's just pretty. And I think Aniplex. I think Aniplex is the one who's animating it. Of course, a subsidiary of Sony again. So we bring back into that Sony is just dominating some of these markets when it comes to these type of movies. But it's one of those that looks so good when you're watching it at home that it just naturally translates so well to the big screen, especially as an anime movie with all those bright colors and things like that. It's something that I would love to see more when it comes to television. Game of Thrones did that. I forget what season it was with their last 2 episodes in the season. They filmed it in IMAX and they allowed you to watch it at AMC and Regal and all those theaters whatnot. So those type of things are really good for the fans, and you see it here in their pocketbook that when you do certain things really well and the fans want it, they're gonna go do it. So a 20 million is the actual number for the budget for this movie to be grossing 600 million worldwide. That is a 30x return on this movie for Sony Group. Aniplex is the one who did it, but it's a subsidiary of Sony. That's
Okay, so it sounds like the visual spectacle of Demon Slayer is a huge part of its success, right? Like the animators at Aniplex are cooking up something special that just pops on the big screen. And you're saying Sony's got a real winning formula here, dominating the anime movie scene. Now, you mentioned Game of Thrones doing the IMAX thing and how that kind of fan service pays off. Do you think more shows and movies should be experimenting with that kind of immersive experience to get people hyped and into theaters?
percent with these type of things, especially towards the end of it, or you're trying to we see this in anime now where they're doing 1 season or 2 seasons, an anime movie that bridges the gap between like season 2 and 3, telling an untold story that's canon, so the movie actually matters. So for people who like, because you'll see My Hero Academia do some of these movies, they're not too much canon. I think the first movie was canon, but the other ones are kind of just things that happened. When something's canon and it matters, it is fantastic to watch it in a giant screen like that. Anything that has salt to it in terms of story, viability, merch, all those type of things, going on the big screen in a way that exemplifies the characters. So you might get a little bit of exposition, but not too much. It really, really leads the way to success.
Got it, fam. So, like, when a movie is actually canon and adds to the main storyline, it's a total game changer for fans. It's not just a fun side quest, it's essential viewing on the biggest screen possible. Now, you mentioned merch and all that good stuff. Do you think the success of Demon Slayer and other anime movies is also because they've built this whole ecosystem around the franchise with games, collectibles, and everything else?
Not really, because all animes do that. At the end of the day, you really only animate a story from, because generally when it's not an original work, you have a manga, which is the comic. Same thing with comics here at DC and Marvel. But basically you have an anime manga, and then whoever animates it makes a bunch of their money up front. So sometimes they run out of money towards the end. And then a lot of the stuff from that franchise is brought in from merchandising, honestly. Same way how kids shows work in the United States. So I don't think the ecosystem is what makes it go well. I think it being a flashy spectacle of a show that's so pretty is what makes it succeed.
Okay, so you're saying the merchant ecosystem are just standard practice for anime, and the real secret sauce for Demon Slayer is its visual appeal. It's just a straight up gorgeous show that demands to be seen on a massive screen. So, like, if you were a studio exec, would you be greenlighting more anime movies with that kind of visual flair, hoping to catch some of that Demon Slayer magic?
100%. If it allows people to come in, and it also at a budget of 20 million, that would be huge to do a regular anime season of one core, let's say 13 episodes. That would be just absolute stupendous. But in the terms of a movie, that's as cheap as dirt. That's an indie movie, right? Probably a little bit less sometimes for some indie movies, depending on how it's filmed. But with this one right here, $20 million is peanuts to get a movie, and to rake in $20 million internationally, not just locally at your own eco area, but to do it internationally, it's not hard if you put even, let's say, $3 million worth of budget, because you're really just going to be flooding the streaming webs with it, and then you're just going to get the kids, or not really kids. This is going to be a lot of adults, because I would say it's a mix between adults and young adults and teens who really like this show.
Gotcha! So, from a studio perspective, a $20 million budget for an anime movie with international appeal is a no-brainer. It's a relatively low-risk investment with the potential for a massive payoff, especially when you're targeting that sweet spot of teens, young adults, and adults who are already hooked on the show. So, like, what other anime series do you think could make that leap to the big screen and crush it like Demon Slayer?
The one that comes to mind immediately is going to be My Hero Academia, because it's on its last season. And secondary, it's going to be Solo Leveling, because it did so well this last season it did and whatnot. And they could easily minimize a couple chapters or two into a movie and add a little bit more context to it. I assume that's what's going to happen towards the end of Solo Leveling's game, since they did that sequel that wasn't really a sequel manga. It was all fan service stuff. So I think that they gave a lot of room at the end. So maybe at the end of 4 or 5 years, once we're at the end of this journey with Solo Leveling, we get some more movies. But definitely My Hero Academia, because of the way the manga ended, kind of on a, not really a cliffhanger, but it didn't really end with, it ties up loose ends, but like people want more from it. So I could see a couple franchises. What's your thoughts? And then we'll move on to the next piece.
Okay, so you're betting on My Hero Academia and Solo Leveling as prime candidates for big screen success. My Hero Academia, because it's ending soon and fans are hungry for more, and Solo Leveling, because of its recent popularity and the potential to expand on the story. As for my thoughts, I'm thinking Attack on Titan could have been a contender if they hadn't already wrapped things up with the anime. The scale and intensity of that series would have been insane on the big screen. But hey, maybe they'll pull a Demon Slayer and give us some canon movies down the line. So, like, ready to switch gears and talk about something else?
Yes, and actually, I wasn't able to get a lot of stuff on picks and icks, so I think I'm gonna skip that section today. I had one thing on there, but I don't have enough good stats about it to actually make it a big thing on its own. The last thing we're going to talk about is something that is absolutely crazy. So Paramount is in talks to buy WB. Now, they just merged with Skydance Media. Yeah, so Paramount has been on a huge buying spree. They merged with Skydance recently, and they also had another purchase with TKO Holdings to get all the MMA fights on their streaming platforms. And there is this thing out there that WB has been thrown away hand and fist over. Like, it's with what is it with now? It's with Paramount right now. Is it Paramount? No.
Okay, I'm
No.
tracking. Sorry, I misspoke. Is Warner Brothers being thrown around like a hot potato and now Paramount is in the mix? I'm tracking the MMA angle and the Skydance merger. So, like, what's the big question here? Are we wondering if Paramount is the right fit for Warner Brothers, or more about why Warner Brothers keeps getting shopped around?
Yeah, so I think the big thing here with Warner Brothers is it keeps being shopped around. So I believe they're just struggling to find a place. They had this beautiful thing with DC where before it got sold off and merged with Discovery, that's who it was. Before it got merged with Discovery and it became Discovery, I forget what the hell it's called. But before they did all this junk, they had this beautiful thing where They were making DC its own thing. They had DC, I think it's DC Infinite now, but it was DC Universe, its own streaming app, which was just everything DC. They were doing wonders with their animated movies. They were building this DC ecosystem. Then they got sold, and then they moved it over to Discovery. Then it became Discovery Dash, whatever they call it now. And now Paramount's in talks to buy them. Now Paramount's just did their Halo series. It got canceled. They're in talks to do a Call of Duty series. UB just came out with the Superman movie that did really, really well. It was a nice standing, but it looks like there was also a leak that if Paramount had bought WB, they would scrap everything that the director for Guardians is doing currently.
Okay, so like it sounds like we're looking at a classic case of a team with a lot of potential getting traded around and never really getting a chance to shine. It sounds like you're saying that Warner Brothers had a solid play with DC, building its own universe, but then the Discovery merger messed with the game plan. Now, with Paramount sniffing around, there's a risk of even more creative changes, like scrapping the new Superman direction. So, like the big question is, will Warner Brothers ever find a stable home where they can build something lasting, or will they keep getting bounced around like a bad call in the fourth quarter?
I think at this point, BB needs to go private again. They need to go private. And this was said when they were finishing up the Flash movie that I like the Flash movie, but they said it did bad. Where they were saying that Warner Brothers, realistically, when it comes to DC, they just can't keep up with Marvel. They don't have the cash flow. So they were saying that they could only do, and this is also when Black Adam was coming out, they could only do one, maybe two $200 million movies a year, versus Marvel's slate of 4, 5, 16, however many movies they want to come out. They could put out a movie that flops and then move on to the next one. WB can't do that. So I believe what WB really needs to do at this point is they need to go private once again with their own financing so they can make the calls, because they have good franchises. The thing is, they're just not capitalizing it. The only thing that really makes money for them when it comes to DC has always traditionally been Batman. Wonder Woman had a decent run. They had 2 movies, and then that was it. Superman had a decent run. Justice League had a decent run. They all made money, but they considered Flash a flop, even though it made money. So it's one of those things where they can't just be beholden to shareholders, and with a brother or sister they have to worry about when they're making decisions.
Okay, I'm tracking with you, Duke. It sounds like you're saying that Warner Brothers is stuck in a tough spot, trying to compete with Marvel's deep pockets while also answering to shareholders. You're thinking the solution is for them to go private, get their own funding, and then strategically rebuild DC without the pressure of constant quarterly earnings. So, like, if they went private, what would be the first move you'd recommend they make to get DC back on track? Would it be focusing on a specific character, a new creative direction, or something else entirely?
So I think, and it's James Gunn, that's the director of all the DC stuff right now. I think when it comes to UB, they have HBO and everything that comes with HBO. They have DC and everything that comes with DC. The same way how Disney is consolidating what makes them the best. You have Disneyland, you have Disney franchises, you have Marvel, you have ESPN, right? So you have these things. You have Hulu that they just purchased, which is going to disappear. So they're consolidating all of their big items into this everything streaming type of ecosystem where they can bring in multiple dollars and they can bring in big dollars that are consistent. UB needs to do the same thing. They don't have as many assets as Disney, but what they do have is they do have darker toned things, so more adult content with adults that are willing to spend on it, but they need to hit those price points and understand, okay, we are not Disney level, right? We have things that people enjoy and care about, but we are not Disney level. We need to stop rushing into these franchises to how other companies are doing things and do it to our size and our statement. It will take years. I would say like 3 years minimum at best. But the mere fact that they keep changing the name of HBO Max they don't know what they're doing. And they're just honestly trying to make shareholders happy.
Okay, I'm hearing you loud and clear, Duke. It sounds like you're saying Warner Brothers needs to stop chasing Disney's shadow and focus on building its own unique streaming ecosystem. You're thinking they should lean into their strengths, like darker, more adult content, while also catering to kids, but without trying to be something they're not. You're saying it's about understanding their size, their brand, and building a long-term strategy instead of chasing short-term shareholder wins. So, like, if you were in charge of Warner Brothers' streaming strategy, what's one specific show or movie concept you'd greenlight right now to kickstart this new direction?
So the kickstarting the new direction, I don't think it's kickstarting as much as staying along the path they're building. You have James Gunn, which is bleeding out the not bleeding out, where he's stretching out the new DC universe, right? It is what it is. Zack Snyder's gone, blah blah blah. But his universe is off to a really good start. You have some of the animated films, Harley Quinn still going, or animated shows, Harley Quinn, Creature Commandos. We have Clayface coming out, which is going to be a horror film. So there are things in the works DC wise, right? Now you have HBO Max. HBO, or just not HBO Max, but HBO in general needs to get some love when it comes to money and shows. You have their television groups that does have some younger animation for kids that needs to give a little bit more focus on, is this going to be something we build out, or is this just something we really don't care about and we'll just do some bits and pieces when we think it fits the case? Because honestly, those type of things, I don't think they're making much money on those, like Looney Tunes, the Cartoon Network studios, like some of those things just they don't seem to be generating revenue, and I think it might be hurting them. So I think they need to offload those into only streaming only. You have a certain budget, you don't do anything more than that, and but we keep it internal, right? We're not broadcasting this to other people to make these grand esoteric shows or things until we get a grip on what is going to be our bread and butter. And at this point, I really think the DC, right? And then what is not their bread and butter. Currently, right now, in my opinion, their bread and butter is going to be these DC franchises that can 3, 5, 10x the company's value, and their HBO lineup that can produce a lot of secondary and tertiary income years down the road once they have longer than 3.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So, like, WB needs to stop chasing Disney's shadow and double down on what makes them WB, right? Focus on those DC powerhouses that can explode and those HBO shows that build a loyal fan base over the long haul. So, if you were calling the shots, what's the first move you'd make to get WB back on track? Are we talking a total DC Universe reboot, or are we focusing on building out those HBO series?
Yeah, like I said before, again, it's going to be their bread and butter that they really need to focus on. They need to focus on, okay, what makes us money? The DC franchises can make us oogles amounts of money. Okay, that's going to be our bread and butter here because we're an entertainment company. So DC Studios is what's going to make our bread and butter. Our animated studios are the things that could potentially tax what we make. So some of these animated movies, just like anime is doing, where they spend $20 million to make these movies, they put it in the movie theaters and it does big numbers. I guarantee if they put the animated film Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 and 2 as a back-to-back feature at AMC or Regal, it would sell, because as much as people buy the not the streaming rights, but they watch it on streaming services or they buy the DVDs or Blu-rays for these things, I guarantee watching it on a big screen is just a different experience and is something that people might actually want outside of the typical Batman movies you get every 7 years at this point.
Got it, fam. So, like, DC is the bread and butter, animation is the secret sauce to multiply that bread, and movie theaters are the oven to bake it all to perfection. I'm curious, do you think WB should focus on adapting existing DC storylines for these animated films, or should they create original stories?
I think it's a good mix of both. It's bringing in elements of the newer and older things in there. It's always a good mix. Like, you want to tell your portion of the story because that's what we have directors, that's what we make creative content. You want to give your viewpoint on it. But I think there is something to be said of staying as original as possible when it comes to some of these elements.
Okay, I'm tracking. So, like a blend of new and old, letting directors cook up their own takes while still respecting the source material. So, if you were in charge of the DC animated universe, which character or storyline would you want to tackle first? And what would be your unique spin on it?
I think currently, right now, we need to get a Batman Absolute short. So right now, the comics are absolutely killing it with these crazy interpretations of Batman and his rogues gallery. I believe a 15 or 17-minute short, which is what they used to showcase, and they don't do it as much anymore, on Batman Absolute characters would be a very nice see. Put it on YouTube, see how many people like it, put it on the DC channel or whatnot, and see how many people get excited about it, because Batman Absolute is doing crazy numbers.
Okay, I'm vibing with that. A Batman Absolute short to test the waters and get fans hyped. So, like, if you were pitching this to WB, what would be your hook to get them on board? What's the one thing that would make them say, okay, let's greenlight this Batman Absolute short?
The hook I would use is, while you are a publicly traded company, the shareholders only care about what your EPS is. What value are you bringing to your stock, right? So if I buy it at $10, I want to know when it's going to get to 12. I want to know when it's going to get to 20. And the way you go about this is you build relationships with your users. Right now, nobody gives a flying rat's butt what is going on with their company, kind of almost backing away. You have Batman with Matt Reeves one. You have that in hiatus for 2 years, and everyone's like, okay, cool. What's going to go on here? Everyone's excited about Superman. Superman's done. What's the next thing? When do we get the next movie? It's probably not going to be about for a year and a half. So I think people are just falling out of love with some of these franchises, and little short things to get us back in the groove of just like, oh, that's what they're working on. Oh, they could do this. Once you get the hype in there, like, just remember, Deadpool was a leaked footage event, and it became millions of dollars.
Okay, I'm tracking. So, like, the hook is all about boosting that EPS and building a real connection with the fans. You're saying these shorts are like a hype machine, keeping the love alive between the big movies and reminding everyone why they're invested in WB in the first place. So, like, what's the biggest risk you see with this approach? What could go wrong with releasing these Batman Absolute shorts?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing could go wrong. They could spend, I guess the only thing that really could go wrong is they spend too much money with no return. But at the end of the day, if there's no return, they know it's not ready. It's not cooked enough. If there is a return, they know what to do next. It is a very, very easy census they can put out there, especially with YouTube. Anything that connects with anybody. When you look at some of these YouTube channels like Comic Storian, when all they do is talk about DC franchise comics, and people love that, people eat that up, right? And it's just their interpretation of what's going on, or they're voicing it over. So these type of things, people want them, and there's just nothing.
Okay, I'm hearing you loud and clear. The only real risk is overspending, but even then, it's a learning opportunity. If it flops, you tweak the recipe. If it pops, you know you're cooking with gas. So, like, let's say WB gives you the green light and a blank check. What's the first thing you do to bring this Batman Absolute short to life? Who do you call? What's the vibe you're going for?
So if I have a blank check, realistically, Batman Absolute just gets a short. It doesn't get anything else, because I think you have to find a line between, are we doing this live action or is this an animated thing? And with how gargantuan these characters are and how they look, probably it's going to be animated. But if I had a block check, which is what James Gunn is doing currently, I would look at trying to do the Blackest Night story for Guardians. It would be really hard to do, and they would have to be really careful because it gets very Star Warsy. So it could be really hard to do and just absolutely burn in fire. But for them, and they're already working on these Green Lanterns, so we don't know if they're working on it. So that's what I would do if I had a blank check. I would definitely do the Blackest Night storyline.
Okay, I'm tracking. So, like, with a blank check, you'd go big and tackle Blackest Night, even though it's a risky play. So, like, what's the biggest challenge in adapting Blackest Night for the screen? Is it the scope, the tone, or something else entirely?
So the biggest challenge, and this will be the last one we talk about this, and then we'll end off the show. The biggest thing with Blackest Night is going to be heavily CG'd, heavily CG'd. Secondary thing is there's a lot of things in there that people are just not going to care about. You have all the lantern colors of the spectrum. You're going to have the deity type colored icons like Ion and Parallax. The only time people are really going to start caring in there is when you start seeing the dead heroes coming back once we get the black rings, and you start seeing like Thomas Wayne, you start seeing all of these Dove, where Dove can't come back because they embody light, so the Black Lantern doesn't work on them. Once Kilowog comes back, like when you see all these things on there, that's when people are going to start caring about it. But you can't rush into that, because if you rush into that scene too early, you lose all of the payoff of the entire story. Yeah, so you lose the entire payoff of that entire story. So I think what really needs to happen here is they really need to focus on delivering, doing it well, but being conscious of fiscal restraints. And I think that's something every company really needs to worry about now, and not as much so worry about, but actually matter. So if you look at, let me pull up his name. James Gunn has finance guy that he said he would. There we go. Peter Safran. Peter Safran is the business and finance of James Gunn. James Gunn did not want to take over DC unless Peter Safran came with him. And that's very smart of him. So James Gunn is very comfortable with Peter and how they work together, where money comes from, where he could pinch, where he can get more. So I think as a company, when you have somebody who you want to head something, who's already thinking about, hey, for this to go long, we need to make sure we have all the monies in place. We need to make sure that everything here fits fiscally, so we have wiggle room to fail if we fail. And I think that's what actually puts him ahead of other people who have taken over projects or whatnot. And it's something to say to his credit, but also to the company's credit, that you guys need to realize that you could only borrow a certain amount of money from $1, right? Let's say you borrow 30 cents. Let's say you borrow 50 cents. You can't borrow $2 from $1. That just doesn't make any sense. It requires you to perform at a scale that just honestly is not realistic sometimes, unless you hit some viral sensation. And while they are getting better at being intentionally viral, it's still something that it has to hit you a certain way for it to connect with millions of people. So I believe that's a good spot to end today's episode. UB, I'm hoping for the best of you. I apologize. Pix and Nix is not going to be here today. I didn't find anything I really wanted to talk about for like a long things. And then without the two hosts, I wasn't feeling good about it. So yeah, thanks you guys for watching, and have a pleasant day. Did you think I forgot?
Like, yeah.
Supposed to be three brothers, but there's only one brother today.